Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Mark Lin. Namaskar. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. India to host the second Voice of the Global South Summit in virtual format. It will focus on sharing key outcomes achieved at the G20 meetings under India's presidency. Israeli army says that it has found a tunnel and weapons at Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital. A body of a hostage is also found from a building adjacent to the hospital. Australia wins a low-scoring semi-final against South Africa in Kolkata and sets up a tighter clash with India on Sunday at Ahmedabad. India will host the second Voice of the Global South Summit on the 17th of November. It will be held virtually. India is committed to consolidating its collaborations and convergences within the Global South. The summit provides a platform to discuss the outcomes from the various G20 meetings during India's presidency as well. The first summit had seen 125 nations participate. That summit in January had provided a diverse range of perspectives on the Global South. DD India's Akshay Dongre reports.
India will be hosting the second summit of the Global South nations on 17th November. The Voice of the Global South Summit will be held in virtual mode and in continuation with the first Voice of Global South Summit held in January during India's G20 presidency.
This would be an opportunity, tomorrow's summit, for sharing with the countries of the Global South the key outcomes achieved in various G20 meetings over the course of India's presidency. You would recall that during the first Voice of Global South Summit in January, this is one of the things that we did. Part of what Prime Minister had said, reach out, hear the voices of the Global South and see how we can mainstream that, give them more attention and put them on the high tables. I think we have been able to do that, and I think this is a good opportunity to tell members of the Global South what has been really developments over our presidency.
During the fourth summit of the unique initiative, leaders from 125 countries of the Global South came together to share their perspectives and priorities on a common platform. The second Voice of Global South Summit will be structured into 10 sessions. The inaugural and concluding sessions would be at head of state government level and hosted by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The theme of the inaugural leaders session will be Together for Everyone's Growth with Everyone's Trust. And that of the concluding leader session is Global South, Together for One Future. In addition, there will be 8 ministerial level sessions with the following themes. Foreign Minister Session, India and Global South, Emerging Together for a Better Future. Education Minister Session, Making Human Resources Future Ready. Finance Minister Session, Financing People-Centric Development. Environment Minister Session, Sustainable Solutions for Climate Resilience and Climate Finance. Second Foreign Minister Session, Global South and One Development. Energy Minister Session, Affordable and Inclusive Energy Transition for Sustainable Development. Health Minister Session, Solution from Global South for One Health. And Commerce Trade Minister Session, Global South and Resilient Supply Chain. The second Voice of Global South Summit come at a time of increasing conflicts in various parts of the world, extreme weather patterns due to climate change, and rising socio-economic challenges that disproportionately hinder the growth of the developing and underdeveloped world. The summit aims to bring together the Global South on a common platform to tackle these challenges. Akshay Dongre, DD India.
India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh attended the 10th ASEAN Defence Ministers Meeting Plus or ADMM Plus in Jakarta and Indonesia. India pressed for ASEAN and Plus countries to work together to ensure peace, prosperity and security in the region. The meeting comes at a time when fighting between the army and insurgent groups in Myanmar has forced refugees into India's northeastern state of Mizoram. Indonesia handed over the chairmanship also of ADMM to Laos. Here's Fuzail Ahmed's report.
India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh reiterated India's commitment to freedom of navigation, overflight and unimpeded lawful commerce in the international waters in accordance with international laws. The Indian minister's comments came at the 10th ASEAN Defence Ministers Meeting Plus in Jakarta, Indonesia on Thursday. The Indian minister reiterated India's commitment to work with ASEAN and Plus countries to ensure peace, prosperity and security, which is an apt theme for the year's ADMM+. India also proposed to co-chair the expert working group on counter-terrorism. This proposal was endorsed by the ADMM+, as terrorism remains a serious concern to countries in the region. The Indian Defence Minister also held a meeting with the Indonesian Defence Minister Prabowo Subianto in Jakarta. The defence chiefs of two nations recommitted to further strengthen cooperation, particularly in the maritime domain. The Indian Defence Minister also met Vietnamese Defence Minister General Phan Vang Yang. The leaders reviewed progress in implementation of the joint vision statement on Indian-Vietnam defence partnership towards 2030. In another development, Indonesia officially handed over the chairmanship of ASEAN Defence Ministers meeting to Laos, the last of the cohort of meetings during its ASEAN chairmanship.
We have witnessed the Lao PDR's commitment to regional peace and stability. Therefore, I am confident that under its leadership, the ADMM will continue to flourish. I have full faith in the capabilities, wisdom and the leadership of the Lao PDR's Minister of National Defense.
The annual meeting came as conflict rages in Middle East and Ukraine. Indonesia's Defence Minister Prabowo Subianto held separate bilateral talks with Russian Vice Minister of Defense Alexander Fomin and US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin on the sidelines of ASEAN Defence Ministers meeting in Jakarta. Fuzail Ahmed reporting for DD India.
The Indian Minister of Earth Sciences, Kiren Rijiju, arrived in the Maldives on Thursday for the official two-day visit to represent India at the President's swearing-in ceremony. Dr. Mohamed Muizzu will be sworn in as the new President of the Maldives today. Dr. Muizzu defeated the incumbent President, Ibrahim Mohamed Saleh, in the recent runoff elections held in September. The Indian leader's representation underlines the importance of the regional partnership that India has fostered through SAGA, or Security and Growth for All in the region, and Neighborhood First policies. Rijiju met the outgoing President Saleh and highlighted the depth and progress of the India-Maldives bilateral relationship that has grown over the last few years. The Parliament Secretariat of the Maldives has confirmed that dignitaries from 46 countries are participating in the inauguration ceremony. Here's an update now on the Israel-Hamas conflict. Well, the Israeli military, they have said that they've uncovered a Hamas tunnel shaft at Gaza's Al-Shifa hospital complex. The army said that its troops had found a vehicle in the hospital containing a large number of weapons as well. The military also made public videos and photographs of the tunnel shaft and the weapons.
The army forces found underground shaft inside Al-Shifa hospital. The engineering forces destroyed the infrastructure. We also found in the hospital Hamas vehicle that was ready to be part of the October 7 attack, but did not go on the road, and inside it was a huge amount of arms.
Israel's military also said that the soldiers had found a body of an Israeli hostage taken into Gaza by Hamas in its attack last month. Israel's military spokesperson said that the body of Yehut Weiss, one of the hostages taken by Hamas gunmen, was recovered by troops in a building near the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza.
The body of Yehudit, may her soul rest in peace, was recovered by our forces. The 7th Brigade, which was scanning the area nearby the Al-Shifa hospital, recovered her body in one of the homes during the scanning. Near her body, we found bodies of terrorists who were holding Yehudit.
Israel has said that the military also uncovered significant material in its operation at the Al-Shifa hospital. Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said that its commandos were still searching through the Al-Shifa hospital. He said that the operation to wipe out Hamas terrorists is being done in a precise, selective, but very, very determined manner.
There are significant findings there. The operation continues and it is done in a precise, selective, but very, very determined manner. The more we deepen this operation, increase the pressure on Hamas and erode more headquarters, damage more tunnels, eliminate more operatives and bring down more heads of organizations, the greater the chances of returning our hostages. Because the enemy only understands power, and we explain to him very well what power is.
The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken spoke to the Israeli War Cabinet Minister Benny Gantz. They discussed efforts to boost and accelerate the transit of critical humanitarian assistance into Gaza. The State Department, in its statement, said that the two leaders discussed efforts to prevent the conflict widening and to secure the release of hostages. Blinken also stressed the urgent need for affirmative steps to de-escalate tensions in the West Bank. The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken also spoke to his Egyptian counterpart Sameh Shoukry, and this is about efforts to increase humanitarian aid to Gazans in urgent need. Blinken reaffirmed the importance of concrete steps to minimize harm to civilians in Gaza and reaffirmed Washington's rejection of the forced displacement of Gazan people. Let's take a look now at other stories making news around the world. A fire broke out in a warehouse in Mexico City's central borough, resulting in a plume of black smoke filling the skyline. Civil protection authorities confirmed no casualties and evacuated hundreds of people. The Moldovan president, Maia Sandu's dog, Kodrut, bit the Austrian president Alexander Van der Bellen on the hand during a meeting at the presidential palace residence. The incident, it occurred when Van der Bellen tried to pet the dog, which was frightened by people nearby. Sandu apologized, and the incident occurred during talks on Moldova's bid to become an EU member. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York has seized the largest ever counterfeit goods seizure in the United States' history, involving 219,000 luxury products valued at $1.03 billion. Adam Assau and Abdullah Jallo are charged with trafficking in goods. They were arrested in Manhattan. The charges carry a maximum prison sentence of 10 years. The Austrian Interior Ministry has decided to build a police station at the birthplace of Adolf Hitler, housing up to 50 officers. The decision follows years of debate over preventing the site from becoming a neo-Nazi pilgrimage site. Austria was annexed by Hitler's Germany in 1938. It has acknowledged that Austrians were also perpetrators of Nazi crimes. Still to come here on DD India Live. Finland to close some border crossings with Russia to deter asylum seekers. The International Court of Justice is due to pass a ruling on alleged ethnic cleansing of Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh. And Starbucks' Red Cup Day event is disrupted by staff going on strike.
Turning crisis into opportunity, transforming ideas into action, stories of real change, tales of sustainable solution. This series is going to tell stories of such changemakers. Watch Changemakers on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. My name is Mark Lynn. UK's new Foreign Secretary David Cameron visited Ukrainian port city Odessa on his first trip abroad after taking charge. Cameron met with his Ukrainian counterpart Dmytro Kuleba while visiting Ukrainian naval vessels in Odessa city, a regular target of Russian airstrikes. Cameron pledged to continue providing military support for Ukraine's war effort until it is victorious in its war with Russia.
We will continue to give you the moral, the economic, the political and the diplomatic support and, of course, the military support in your fight. And I'm also pleased to be standing on the shore of the Black Sea, where the Ukrainian Navy has had immense success in beating back the Russian Navy and taking far greater control of this vital maritime corridor.
Russian artist Alexander Shkolelenko, who replaced supermarket price tags with messages calling for an end to Moscow's war in Ukraine, was jailed for 7 years on Thursday for knowingly spreading false information about the Russian army. The 33-year-old Alexander Shkolelenko is an artist from St. Petersburg, and she said that she wanted to stop Ukraine's conflict and appealed to the judge for compassion, wisdom, and to set her free. The artist, who has already spent over a year and a half in prison, has denied the formal charge of knowingly spreading false information about the army. Russian shelling on Thursday killed 2 civilians and injured at least 12 in southern Ukraine's Kherson region. Kherson and the West Bank of the Dnipro River. These areas have been regularly bombarded by Russian troops from Dnipro's eastern bank. Ukrainian officials this week said that their forces had crossed the river and were operating on the eastern bank. A Ukrainian storming brigade on Thursday published footage which it said showed its fighters capturing Russian trenches near the city of Bakhmut in the eastern Ukraine. The video shows soldiers arriving in an armored personnel carrier at a stretch of forest and having a firefight with other troops. Russia captured Bakhmut theater of some of the bloodiest fighting of the 20-month-old war in May 2023. Ukraine launched a counteroffensive in June aimed at retaking occupied land in the country's south and east, including Bakhmut. Finland will close some crossings on the border with Russia from Friday. The Prime Minister Petteri Orpo has said that on Thursday, that 4 crossing points in the south would close at midnight on Friday, while 2 in the north would stay open for asylum applications. Neighboring Norway, which shares a border also with Russia and the Arctic, is also ready to close its border at short notice if necessary.
Well, Finland shares a 1,300-kilometre border with Russia. It is the largest border of any neighbouring European nation. But the president of Finland has announced that he will be ordering the closure of 4 of the country's 9 official border crossings. Now, the reason he says he is doing this is because the country is experiencing a surge in immigrants trying to cross the border from Russia. He has accused Moscow of engineering a problem with asylum seekers in order to enact revenge on Finland for its cooperation with the United States and NATO. What we are hearing from Helsinki is that there has been a large surge in people coming from third countries, in other words, people from outside of Europe, arriving at that border with Finland claiming asylum. The Finnish are saying that the Russians are helping them get to the border as part of a scheme, as I say, in order to try and play geopolitical games, according to the government in Finland. Now, it is important to note this is not just happening in Finland, it's also happening in neighbouring Norway. The government there has suggested it too may be about to close its border with Russia because of a big spike in people arriving at its border claiming asylum. And this is not necessarily a new problem in Europe. We have seen this type of action before when immigrants were travelling through Belarus in order to try and gain entry to Poland, again a European Union country. And for people caught in the crosshairs of this, they are quite often desperate people trying to gain asylum or migration rights to the European Union, but they find themselves really caught up in a game of geopolitical chess between the EU and Russia. So moving forward as we go into the winter, we know conditions there are very, very tough for people trying to cross illegally. But what we are hearing is that governments across Europe are going to treat this problem very, very seriously. And if it comes to it, close the borders with Russia completely. Trent Murray for DD India, Berlin.
The United Nations' top court will hand down its ruling on Friday on a case brought by Armenia against Azerbaijan. Armenia wants the court to put restrictive measures in place to prevent what they call ethnic cleansing of Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh, a claim Azerbaijan denies. Alex Kadir reports.
It's now nearly 2 months since Azerbaijani forces stormed into Nagorno-Karabakh, uprooting the local self-proclaimed Republic of Artsakh, which had close ties with Armenia. What followed was the exodus of more than 100,000 ethnic Armenians from the region, leaving shattered lives behind. Armenia now says the few that remain are at risk of ethnic cleansing at the hands of Azerbaijani troops, and it wants the International Court of Justice to step in. Armenia is asking the ICJ to put in place 10 provisional measures aimed at protecting the rights of ethnic Armenians from that Nagorno-Karabakh region. The head of Armenia's legal team says nothing other than targeted and unequivocal provisional measures protecting the rights of ethnic Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh will suffice to prevent the ethnic cleansing Azerbaijan is perpetrating from continuing and becoming irreversible. Meanwhile, Azerbaijan has strenuously denied all of Armenia's allegations. The country's deputy foreign minister, Elnur Mammadov, said Azerbaijan has not engaged and will not engage in ethnic cleansing or any form of attack on the civilian population of Karabakh. The International Court of Justice is currently working through 2 similar cases linked to the decades-long conflict between the two sides. In 2021, Armenia filed a claim accusing Azerbaijan of breaching the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Shortly thereafter, Azerbaijan filed a counterclaim accusing Armenia of doing the same thing. The legal wranglings between an emboldened Azerbaijan and a weakened Armenia will likely carry on beyond this ruling, a ruling which even the court will have no practical way to enforce. Alex Kadir in Brussels reporting for DD India.
A powerful storm with hurricane-force winds, gusts, they poured over a foot of rain on South Florida, flooding homes, streets, power lines and trees, and tens of thousands of homes and businesses were left without power, with over 86,000 homes and businesses without power across Miami-Dade, Broward and Palm Beach counties. The storm reached over 100,000 outages. In the Indian Himalayan state of Uttarakhand, the government and all its agencies are making every effort to rescue 40 workers trapped inside a collapsed under-construction tunnel. A heavy-duty drilling machine had bored through 12 meters of rubble of the collapsed tunnel, and a 6-meter section of a steel pipe had been inserted into the bored passage to rescue the workers. The tunnel collapsed in the early hours of November 12. Let's take a look at other stories making the news today. Voting for assembly elections in the Indian states of Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh will take place today. Voting in Madhya Pradesh will be for all 230 assembly seats, and the voters in Chhattisgarh will be voting for the second phase of their state's election. The results will be announced on the 3rd of December. The Indian Army, in collaboration with the Border Roads Organization, the BRO, has successfully completed the construction of the Bailey Bridge over the Teesta River in the northeastern state of Sikkim in India. This marks a significant milestone as the bridge reconnects the flood-affected areas of North Sikkim with the mainland, re-establishing vital transportation links that were cut off by the floods. Thousands of people have gathered in the South Indian state of Kerala. They are witnessing the Kalpati Rath festival. And this festival is held annually to preserve Vedic traditions of the Tamil Brahmin community. This festival is an occasion for family gatherings of the people of Kalpati. Some business-related news. Workers at hundreds of Starbucks stores across the United States have walked off their jobs during a key promotional event that happened on Thursday, demanding improved staffing and schedules. The walkout comes on the coffee chain's Red Cup Day event, during which Starbucks hands out free red-colored, reusable, holiday-themed cups to customers on their coffee purchases. Workers United has said that the event was one of the most infamously hard, understaffed days, as drink orders pile up and employees end up on the receiving end of abuse from frustrated customers over long wait times. The union represents over 9,000 Starbucks employees at about 350 US stores. In the Cricket World Cup, Australia are in the finals. Well, the Aussies, they defeated South Africa by 3 wickets in the second semi-final in the Indian eastern city of Kolkata. Well, Australia will now be meeting India in the title clash on Sunday. This was a low-scoring semi-final match. South Africa were bundled out for just 212 runs, with the Australian pacers Mitchell Starc and Josh Hazlewood wreaking havoc. The Proteas at one stage were actually at 24 for the loss of 4 wickets. But then David Miller rose to the occasion, slamming a century and helping his side put up a decent 212 on the board. But the Australians started well, with Warner and Travis Head putting on 60 runs for the opening wicket in less than 7 overs and looking like they were going to storm to success. But then the going got tough, with the Australians losing wickets at regular intervals thanks to some really tight bowling by Keshav Maharaj and Tabraiz Shamsi, making for a keen contest. But then the Australian captain Cummins and the fellow pacer Starc batted with assurance towards the end to take their side over the line with nearly 3 overs to spare. That's all we have in this edition of DD India Live. Let's know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. My name is Mark Lynn from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.